Good morning. Um, just had some really good news today. It maybe had a double-edged sword to it, but not too much. Um, it's a reminder, though, that while some of us think that reconsideration level after you've been denied on initial and you appeal for reconsideration, it stays in the same office, but a different adjudicator is generally reviewing it, working it up. We often consider it a rubber stamp of the unfortunate denial on initial. Um, and that can be perhaps warranted, perhaps not, depending on how strongly we felt initial was. But we often feel, many of us anyway, I'm sure not everybody, that recon tends to be a rubber stamp. And, we make the joke about the second adjudicator on recon would have the difficult chore of overturning his buddy down the hall if he reverses it without fantastic reason. So like something very big deteriorated health-wise in the case, so that when he did flip it and awarded, it would be understandable that the first guy didn't award. Okay. Perhaps it's diplomacy. I don't know. But it's unfortunate. But one thing I would say when you're heading into recon, I know particularly if you're pro se, you might be just kind of, waiting, hoping for a miracle after you were denied. It is a time to really, really drive home your treatment. Push for those. You should have been doing this on initial, but sometimes getting these appointments takes a while. So it could be that you were gunning towards this during initial, but then you got to the denial before you could actually, take the action, because maybe an appointment was set 5 months later. If you're now on recon and those appointments are happening, when you did your recon appeal, you put in all the doctors you saw since you applied. Now, generally speaking, I think it's best to keep that adjudicator notified of all new visits during the initial, and then of course during the recon, so that there is no big gap. I think it can increase your chances of winning if you have serious stuff showing up in your records. I mean, if you don't, obviously this is going to apply to people who are really building their evidence to show exactly what they're feeling and going through. So when you get to recon, same thing, but particularly if you weren't doing it on initial, maybe you didn't know until now that you can be proactive. You want to be pushing for diagnostic updates if they are warranted. An MRI that you haven't had in over a year, maybe you need another one. I know those can be hard to get insurance wise. So sometimes they'll make you go to PT. Don't say, unless you have better reason than you don't feel like it, or it didn't work the last time, that you're not going to PT because it won't work. If they want you to go to PT, your doctor recommends it, I would do it. And be very frank with your physical therapist about all the feelings that you're, symptoms, limitations, feelings physically, before and after sessions, during sessions. The more articulate you are while being accurate, no exaggeration, any of that, but don't be shy about things either. The more you do that, I think the more likelihood, or the greater the possibility that that therapist would be putting that into the records, commenting on what you said. If you keep your mouth shut and you grin and bear it, nothing's going in, and you look like a rock star, which isn't good for your case. So recon, pushing, just keep pushing with those impairments. Now, what could happen, and I don't know the case on this recon win that we flipped. The reason why we know is because they sent a letter saying, we've found you medically disabled. Now we have to look at some other things. So that's kind of similar to when you see in your online portal that the medical review is over and now we're sending you back for a non-medical review. That's where they check out things that have nothing to do with whether you're medically disabled, whether you're insured, whether you have workers' comp that has to be offset, whether you have federal debts that have to be taken out. I mean, there's all sorts of things, right? Alimony, child support. So, and that would be arrears, guys, not, I don't think that's going to apply for a properly paying person. So, this particular letter didn't say, it wasn't the award letter. Okay. Award letter tells you, we found you disabled as of when, and here are the numbers of what you're going to be getting, and blah, blah, blah. Not quite at that stage yet. This is a one that comes beforehand for some people, not most. And the reason why this one was, so this is just, well, I should say the letter we got didn't say when he was found disabled as of, so I still don't know if it's a fully favorable, meaning the date we asserted is what they decided on, which means a full flip of the initial denial, which can happen if new medical evidence now shows that didn't exist before, but now shows because, you know, the person has been pursuing better, perhaps with a little bit more advice, right? It's showing that the old one was incorrect because now there is medical evidence that shows the person was disabled back then. Or it could be, and this would be less favorable. After an ALJ hearing, this is called a partially favorable, where they find him disabled as of now. So that's a wonderful thing. I still say it's a win. But I like to see my people have back benefits. You know, sometimes they're in the hole. Sometimes they're seeking to move so that they can afford to live on their new reduced income now that they're not working. They might not be in the hole, but you need a down payment. So, you know, we try to prove a case so that it will bring the person the most back benefits applicable to that onset date. But not always possible, particularly when someone doesn't follow legal advice in terms of medical pursuits they should consider following. You know, sometimes they come on board a little late, you know, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink, right? But sometimes some people delay, but then they do jump on board, which is wonderful. So we don't know what the onset date is going to be here. But we know that there is going to be a win. And that means that at least, at the very, very least, he's going to be getting his monthly, whatever he paid for, he's going to be getting every month, you know, assuming he doesn't have any of those debts that he has, which he doesn't. So that's good. We don't know the onset. So therefore, we don't know if the back benefits will be paying the attorney fee either, or if it's going to be some sort of fee petition I have to do. And then he has a bill. We provide payment plans and stuff. So we make it super easy for those that will have a fee applied. Some people, and it's very, very case specific, we just waive the fee when that happens. But that's a different scenario than what I'm talking about here. But I also wanted to say that this particular letter, while it confirmed that he won, but didn't say the onset date, it also requested that he might need a representative payee. And this probably has to do with the fact that we pointed out to them that while, you know, he's not a mentally ill person, but there is mental limitations that a lot of us have when we're in chronic pain as we get older. Our focus is a little worse. Our concentration might not be able to be as long. And a person who did a high-skilled job, that might actually be necessary to prove you can't do a high-skilled job at a more sedentary level, so that you can actually prevail. So acknowledging the decline in focus and concentration, maybe getting distracted easily, you know. It's very different from a different case where the person had an ALJ hearing and the SSA realized, probably the judge indicated it in his decision, that the person might very well need an RP. Now that person, the whole case was largely a mental health case. It was a younger person, you know, well under 50, and I could see the field office wanting to check that out. I could definitely see it, particularly when there was some homeless components to that. So what happened with both is they have to go in. Now the letter talked about this in the first one I was talking about, going in with whoever would be the RP, which would be the spouse. But we had a discussion this morning, and he can go in and present himself as the very fit person he is. it's one thing to be able to not be, not be mentally fit enough to be the president of the United States. It doesn't mean you can't pay your bills, right? Most of us would not be able to be the president of the United States. We just don't have it, have the capacity, even if we're not old. But doesn't mean we can't run our own lives, from a cognitive point of view. So, and it's not like he has a history, like there's some, he doesn't have a mental disorder of the type that would be like, oh my God, you can't give him cash. He'll just go blow it in the casino, or he'll spend the mortgage on shopping at Walmart, none of that. So I think he has a good chance of going in with what would be his RP, which would be the spouse, but saying, I don't need one. We pay our bills. We have it all set up. I never not pay a bill. I can't run the country or my old company, but I can certainly pay my electric bill and stuff like that. So, and there's no evidence of spendthrift business. So I think that could work out well for him to not have the wife be the RP. But if he does, he's in a fortunate position to have a super duper partner in life, been married forever, and it'll all be fine either way, but nobody really wants to have an RP. The prior person, I told you, that was significantly mentally ill, went in and they wanted to see if they thought he was mentally fit to handle his own, finances, like the money they're going to send him. And they found he was. So that was actually pretty cool. I thought that could really go the other way. So it is interesting, though, that field office staff is making the decision. I suppose that's for expedition's sake, and I always tell people too, if that comes to be, you can try to still, acting rationally, to say, I'll get a letter from my doctor because I'm fully capable of doing this. So this is a mistake. And then get a letter from your doctor that says he's fully capable of taking care of his finances. He's been doing it thus far. And I've seen nothing in the office that suggests he can't. There's such a big difference between running a company, being a high-end executive, or any kind of high-skilled job, physical or sedentary, and then not being able to pay your basic bills. There are plenty of people who can't pay their basic bills for a variety of reasons that we've kind of touched on, but that is generally not the case. So I was kind of surprised at this latter guy, but anyway, it helped him get the win, and I do believe the RP business will be settled positively. I don't see why it shouldn't. Very, 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 very sharp guy. Anyway, that's a little addition, just a little tag on as to what this recon was about. Like, oh, the non-medical is, do you need an RP? It wasn't about, hey, we need your workers' comp information. That's a whole nother video. I think I have a couple out, but that can be a nightmare. Anyway, thought I'd get that share out there for you guys, and I will talk to you later. It was a good day, though, on that front. Bye now.